I'm Sarah. This is Bob. We're in this together. We've been gardening together for about 30 years. And we experiment, we try new things. The goal was health and growing food that promotes health. So much of the things they call food isn't. So we try to grow nutrient-dense health that'll build health rather than decrease it, rather than make you sick. Okay? That's one of our goals. Bob will talk about that. Basically, I'm not going to tell you what not to do. That's none of my business. I will tell you what we do and what works for us. And we've learned over the years with the garden, what works we continue to do. What doesn't work, we pull it up at the roots and we don't do it anymore. So everything we're going to talk about tonight works for us. We have it going. And we raise probably 80–90% of everything we eat. Vegetables, herbs, flowers for fun. We're beekeepers. We have sheep for our meat, ducks, chickens, geese, all of that. Okay? So I don't need to go to a grocery unless I want to. And that's lovely right now with things that are the way they are. Let's see, what else do I want to say? Anyway, I'm glad to see you. A lot of you are going to know a lot more than we do. A lot of you probably are new to this. So we're going to take questions and comments, and I already have picked out a couple that I know will have something to say. At the end. Yeah, at the end. At the end. And I can't keep up with questions coming in the process, okay? But I will say one thing, and this usually gets a rise out of people, but at any age, at any degree you are, beginning a teenager, a child, you can garden, you can grow things that are really fun. I am a very old lady. I will be 83 in June, okay? And I've learned some stuff. So, it's just listen, because what I got going really, really works. It has improved our health and sustained us through a lot of years. Okay? All righty, welcome. Bob's going to tell you what we're going to do, and then we'll have at it.
All right. So some topics that we're going to cover tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about our mindset, our philosophy, our values and goals. We're going to talk a little bit about nutrient-dense food. Nutrient-dense food. Our growing process, just the way we do stuff, and we're not farmers. We don't claim to be farmers. We're gardeners. Some stuff that we've actually tried, and some of it we've kept, and some of it we've thrown out. We're going to talk about feeding our plants. We're going to talk about weed control. Isn't that exciting? Weed control, you hire 10 Amish kids and it's taken care of, right? Insect control, critter control, and then steps that we do to just kind of take the work out of it. All right, can you see?
We're going to which one first?
Our goal is to grow nutrients.
Yes, nutrient. Does everybody know what nutrient dense is? No. Okay, so you can eat and it says food on it, but it doesn't have enough vitamins and minerals to be good for your body. It's not going to feed your body. So what you want is to grow food. Our goal is to grow food which has many vitamins and nutrients in it as possible. There's ways to do that. Okay, we know some of those ways because that's what we do. That's our goal. What else have we got here? We grow enough for ourselves. Like I said, we grow 80–90% of everything we need. We only grow to the grocery if we want to. And I like that a whole lot. We learn from the garden. Oh yeah, we we grow for us. We have enough for our family. We also grow some to share. I do have some set-outs I'll be selling later on, mostly tomatoes. I have all kinds of tomatoes, and they're kind of my pets. So I'll talk about those later. We'll have peppers, we'll have different kinds of herbs. Besides the veggies, we do the herbs too, all right? We do culinary herbs, the things you cook with, and medicinal herbs, the things that people tell us are good for your health. Okay, so we'll have some of that. Learn from the garden. It's a physical blessing for me and a spiritual blessing. I never go out there by myself. I learn from my plants. I've learned from seed time to harvest. One of our major goals is to be able to plant something now, harvest it, and have enough to last the year until the next planting. And we've maintained to do that on quite a few things. Example, we grow a lot of cabbages. They become sauerkraut. We eat the sauerkraut all year. Okay? We have enough. So I've done the math. How many cabbages does it take to make 50 quarts of sauerkraut? You can get crazy with the thing, but it helps me keep track. All right, where am I now? Improve. Yes, we do new things every year. Bob will talk about that. And we tend to work at working smarter, not harder. This is a ton of work, particularly when you're growing everything. It's pretty easy to grow this on a tomato plant and 3 flowers. It's harder if you want to eat everything, grow everything you eat or your family eats. It's hard work, but it's doable, and every year we try to figure out how to make that work, how to make it work easier. So a lot of the things that we do that work for us, you'll see. Yes, I can't see this print. Environment. Oh, we have people that come and want to talk, and we talk and tell, and if they hang around long, I give them a job so they learn to do what I'm doing. Have to. I don't have time to stop a lot of times. We grow so many beans that were dried, red beans, pinto beans, black beans. I dry them on cattle panels. We'll get to there. They were dried, so there was no way I could shell all those dried beans. So I had a bean shelling party. I invited my friends. I made bean soup and cornbread and invited people to come over and have a bean shelling party. We got the whole thing done in about 3 hours. Okay, you invite people that want to learn, but it's kind of with us, it's show and tell and come help us with this project. Okay, it's a big project for us. Okay, where am I? I should have my glasses. What's this? Oh yeah, we sell enough of the tomatoes and some of the plants to be able to break even on what kind of seeds and supplies we want to buy. Okay, our garden needs to break even. Everything on the farm needs to pay for itself. The sheep, we sell sheep. Okay, that pays for some of their food. The chickens, I sell eggs. Okay, everything needs to work. I don't want, holes in the budget because of a project. Where are we? Be sustainable. I cannot read this. Okay, here we go. Repurpose things, repair things, and reuse things that were practical. We enjoyed the talk you gave, Teresa, about reusing and recycling, and I've been looking out for things that we can still do. We'll talk about that. Hippocrates, everybody know who Hippocrates was? Okay then. He was one of the original doctors, teachers on food and medicine, and his theme was let food be thy medicine, and let medicine be thy food. I'll say it again. Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food. Okay, this works. This works for me. I had to change a lifestyle 40 years ago. I was a junk food junkie. I ate I used to make fudge and eat the whole pan. So, not a good idea. So I got sick, and then I had to learn totally how to change everything. It was a 2-year project, but it worked. My blood sugar is great, and my lungs are great, and I have my own cheese, which is handy.
All right. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about nutrient dense. It's a kind of a buzzword that's coming along of late. You may be familiar with it. It's also known as high bricks. And the reason it's known as high bricks is use a little machine called a refractometer. So this is a refractometer. What we'll do is take some juice from the plant or grass or herb. We'll put it in here and then look through it, and it'll, depending on how much sugar is in there, it will actually bend the light. And then we could read that as a percentage. If you have a little bit, you want to spend a little bit more money, you can get a digital one. And so, for example, there's some garlic up there, and we're measuring the garlic. We're measuring the garlic, and it reads 44.7. But having the refractometer is really a way that we can begin to do some process improvements in our methodology. Because we can look and read the number and say, oh, it's 10 this year. Let's get it up to 12, or let's get it up to 14. So we're going to increase the numbers. And fortunately, we have a chart that's going to help us out. Now, one more thing. As the sugar levels go up, so do the nutrients. And the food tastes a whole lot better. It just tastes better. I mean, it's remarkable how good it actually tastes. Okay. So here's the real eye test. So this is a bricks chart, and it's graded in poor, average, good, and excellent. So excellent, if we go down the right-hand side, about halfway down, garlic is listed there. And excellent garlic is 40 bricks. Our garlic, the one we measured, was 44.7. So it's almost like a medicinal grade.
They make garlic for high blood pressure. They make pills. It has medicinal effects besides making your food taste great. Okay, so we had a friend come out, do the tests on it, and this tested off the charts as far as having a medicinal grade product. If I come up with a sore throat, I'll do a lot of garlic in one form or another, and within hours it's gone. There are ways I use this, but we use it medicinally. It's also good for high blood pressure and other things. All right. I also cook with it. So,
if we were to go to the grocery store and get some carrots or some celery or some lettuce, and then use our refractometer and our chart, we would probably find that on average, the food you get at the grocery store is poor to good. Poor to good. And you've had those tomatoes in the middle of the winter, right? The kind you cut and eat, and it's like, ooh, this tastes like wax or something. Right? It's really strange stuff. So let's do the next one here. Oh, okay. There it is. And that's a little hard to see. So it's, I magnified the corn line. So a poor quality corn is a 6. A average quality corn is a 10. A good quality is 18, and an excellent is 24. So if you went out and got yourself one cob of excellent corn and ate it, that would be great. But to get the same amount of nutrition from a average corn, you would actually have to eat 2.5 cobs of corn to get the same amount of nutrition. If you got some poor corn, you would actually have to eat 4 cobs of corn to get the same amount of nutrition that you would get into 1 cob of excellent corn. So think about the 4 cobs of corn that you eat. What's going to happen? It's a it's a lot of fiber, but it's also a lot of starches and calories and that type of stuff. And you can't eat it without butter. So your body will say, hey, I have the one excellent cob of corn that really tastes good. That satisfies me, so I don't have to continue eating.
That's one of the causes for overweight in this country, is that the nutrients that you need to keep your body in health and to satisfy it aren't in the food. So you give it the nutrients it needs, so you actually eat less, which is helpful to control your weight, to keep it at a healthy level. Okay? That makes sense, doesn't it? And one thing I wanted to explain about this bricks thing, when I started learning about it, they were talking about the sugar count. I didn't understand, what do you mean sugar count? And our mentor that was talking about this said, no, that's actually the mineral count. It's how many minerals are in it. And our food in this country, most of the conventional ways of growing are very low in minerals. Your body needs minerals for optimum health. And again, we're growing for health, okay?
So how did we learn all this stuff? Well, this is our mentor. His name is John Frank. He's a soil scientist. He's an author, a speaker, spoke on soil nutrition all around the world. He's a great guy. We've been family friend for about 30 years. And he actually uses our place as a test site. So he'll get in the laboratory, he'll analyze a bunch of soil, he'll cook up something that is really cool, and then he'll send it out to us and say, hey, try this out, see how it works. And we try it, and we go, John, that's too much work, we can't do that, we're old people. And he says, okay, well, make it simpler for you. So after about 20 years of making it simpler for us, we got it down pretty good, and he has some great products. All right, let's go to the next one. So just kind of a quick look at the plant. A plant you might consider to be a pump. So as the sunlight strikes the leaves, the water begins to evaporate off. And that creates a suction that pulls the water from the roots up into the plant. And as those roots are gathering up water, they're also getting minerals like manganese and magnesium and iron and whatever else is in the soil. It's pulling that up as well. And when it gets up in the leaves, the sun also takes that chemistry there, adds a little carbon dioxide to it, and then we get photosynthesis, right? And that plant, as a byproduct, gives off oxygen. So we need plants as people. We need plants to live, right? Because they give off oxygen. Okay, one more. So back up one more, please. Okay. So the concept that we use, and I understand next month I'll have a great composting type speaker. The concept that we use is pretty simple. It was introduced by a man named Kerry Reams, Dr. Kerry Reams, and he said that the soil has energy. The soil has energy. And as the soil has a lot of energy, it can pull that up into the plant. If there's not much energy there, it cannot pull it up into the plant. So we could actually get a meter called a conductance meter, stick it next to the plant and say, oh, this needs feeding, or, oh, it's got enough food, it's going to work pretty good. All right, the next one. So plants also have 2 phases that we're concerned about. One is the vegetative stage. So things like lettuce, chard, parsley, those type of things, you eat them in the vegetative stage. And then we also have fruiting stage. So potatoes, tomatoes, grapes, those type of things are fruiting. And actually there's some different fertilizers you'd use depending on which one you want to emphasize. But that gets pretty complicated as well. All right, let's move on.
There are different kinds of seeds that we've learned about over the last few years. And as a result of that, we plant nothing but heirloom seed. They're hybrid seeds. A hybrid is a mutation of the way that God designed seeds to be. It mixes other things together. It mixes the seeds. And as a result, if you tried to replant that hybrid seed year after year after year, it either wouldn't germinate or it would be a mutation of the original. The heirlooms are your original seeds that have been there for generations, over and over and over. So I started collecting my seeds. You hold those up, please. And I store them like this. I take them off my plants. This is all heirloom stuff and everything. You can look at these later. And I collect them every year, mark the date on them, what's in the thing. And these are little Watchman cases, which makes keeping the seeds dry and from doing what you don't want them to do, which is getting mixed up. Okay, heirloom seed. They have GMO seed, not good. And I won't use hybrid anything because it is a mutation of the way it was designed to be and what it was designed to do. The nutrient value on hybrid seed plants is a lot less than the nutrient value you get from using heirloom seed. The best place, if I can't collect my own, is we get a lot, if I have to buy them, we get them from Baker's Creek Heirloom Seed. Highly recommend those folks. We're going to have a handout with some of the references where you can contact people. They send you a really nice catalog if you want to look, and then they have all these goodies online. And it's every kind of vegetable, flower, and herb you can think of. It's all heirloom stuff, which means the nutrient value of its product is going to be a lot higher than the hybrid stuff. It's not going to be sprayed with anything. They do everything. They grow it organically. Highly recommend Baker's Creek. And we have information for you on them. What, my tomato? My new seeds. What are we talking about? Oh, yeah. Every year I try new kinds of seeds, new kinds of tomatoes. I like tomatoes. They're kind of fun. And we usually run 75 to 100 tomato plants. Yes, we do. And that lasts us about a year because I make sauce. When everything is in harvest and I have a glut of stuff, I'll turn those tomatoes into pizza sauce, into spaghetti sauce, taco sauce, tomato soup. I'll turn them into something. I dry a lot of them. I freeze a lot of them.
So the reason we grow so many tomatoes is that we say to some of our friends and neighbors, hey, how would you like some tomatoes? And they say, sure. Well, just pick this road. Just pick this side of the road, and you can have half of what you pick, right? So we don't pick grapes. We don't pick strawberries. We don't pick tomatoes. We don't dig potatoes. We just get other people to do it for us.
Apples. Okay. So it's a win-win because they come and they do it, but they go home with bushels full of produce. Okay. Here's the green pepper from last year. I saved those seeds. The photos you're seeing are not something we saw in the magazine or stuff. This is very normal for how our stuff looks when it comes out. What are we doing? You're waving. Oh, you're waving at him. Oh, that's my onion, and I'm holding the onion. We were blessed last year with a first really good onion crop. We do good with the garlic every year. Our onions have been iffy, mostly because the weeds do take them on occasion and they choke them. Last year it was beautiful, and this was typical of the size of and it was a very sweet onion. It didn't bite back at you. So we'll do that again.
All right. So the next step is once we got the seeds, we're going to stick them in the dirt. We use standard greenhouse stuff that we buy downtown at a greenhouse supply place. So here's some trays here and some setouts in the tray. What's nice about this is once we get it planted, we just move it into our 130-year-old house basement. And we have some hanging lights there. They are just 4 fluorescent light fixtures. And we could put 4 trays on top, 4 trays on the bottom. Like today was a water day, we'll take them out, water them, and then they'll switch places. So they just switch places. They only need light for about half the time. So the top ones go to the bottoms, and the bottom ones go to the top. Now these are not grow lights. These are not grow lights. These are just cheap old workshop lights. And it works really well. If you wanted to grow the plant through its full life cycle, you'd want a grow light. But these are just cheap lights. All right, next slide. So here's some of our things. And we also use like a standard greenhouse medium because it comes in a really big bag rather than buying it at Walmart.
Bob designed these lights and built them, and they're all over the basement. And it really works because of the prices. If you go to a grocery or a greenhouse and you buy set-out plants, they're expensive. The same thing with the fancy grow lights. They're expensive. So when he put this together, he designed it, and we just use regular shop lights at Menards. They're cheap, but they work. They work as far as we want it. And then from there, from this stage, when they get to be about this high, we have a hoop house greenhouse, okay? He got this, I don't know, we've been doing that for, 20 years or so. There it is. It is an all plastic house, which is amazing that it has withstood straight line winds, all kinds of things. And it has paid for it. He put it together in a weekend. We bought the wood for it, and he built trays on the inside of it. We have more pictures of that. And the whole project took him about a weekend to do. And the cost of just this was about $1,000. Okay, now, over the years, every year, it paid for itself the first year because I grew extra plants and sold them as set-outs. So we got our money back. Okay, every investment we make, we've got to have some kind of return to continue on that. We changed the plastic on this 7-8 years, about every 7-8 years. It'll have holes in it. It's just a piece of plastic. But this really works. You can raise all kinds of plants. And a lot of times, depending on when I plant like my tomatoes, they'll be this high by the time they move out of the basement into that. And some of them will have blossoms, and some of them will have tiny tomatoes on it. Now, the reason for this is I plant everything this way. I get ahead of the bad bugs. I'm ahead of tomato blight because it hasn't hit yet. Because I'm harvesting tomatoes before everybody else is getting blight. Okay? Potato bugs, same thing. Everything is planted very, very early. Our cabbages, when the cabbage moth comes and eats holes in your lovely cabbages, we've already harvested ours because we planted the set-outs. We're ahead of that natural cycle of nasty pests. Do y'all understand that? I don't know if I'm explaining that right. Okay, good.
All right, so in the greenhouse, we have a water faucet, we have electricity and a torpedo-style heater. Now, if you want to do something like this particular kit isn't sold anymore, but there's a lot of YouTube videos on making your own, and basically you get some pipe that you get from Menards, and you put a slight bend in it, and that makes your hoop. So for probably $600-700, you can build a pretty nice looking hoop house. So there's the princess. She's watering her plants. We can have up to about 80 plants in there, 80 trays full of plants in there. And then after a while, it actually gets too hot. It'll get up to about 130 degrees in there with the sun shining on it. So we just leave the doors open, and there's a little fan that kicks on. So we could actually start putting the plants out this week, and I think that's our plan. Maybe Wednesday we're going to put the plants out. We got a little heater that keeps the temperatures above 45 degrees. It's just a thermostat, yes. It's good. It's good. All right, next one. So then it goes out to the garden, and you can see a little bit of our garden. Our garden is 60 foot long and 130 foot the other way. We use a lot of things that go up. We don't like to bend over all that much, and we don't like to weed all that much. So let's go to the next one. And you can see there we're using the black landscaping plastic. So it's expensive. It only lasts for maybe 8 or 9 years, but it does a lot of nice things for us. We really like it. It can rain cats and dogs, and we can be out there after the rain. We're not walking around in mud. And it's a good thing for us to use. So that's basically our process, and we'll come back to it here in just a second.
Okay, if you look at those rows, we have the plastic stuff, and there's probably a more Puritan way of doing this, but the plastic works for us because it saves us a lot of time and trouble and effort pulling weeds. Our garden's about 10,000 square foot, and that would be a whole lot of weeds if we didn't use the plastic. But it shows there a little bit on in the rows where you walk. We have carpet, old carpet. We're after people that are ripping up carpet, and save that carpet for me, because we line it here, and then we don't walk on the plastic. You squish your soil down if you would walk on the plastic. We walk on the carpet. Okay, the carpet is biodegradable. So anyway, that works on the rows. Square foot. What? Square foot garden? Oh, yeah. Okay. About that?
So when we used to live in Dallas, 100 years ago, and we bought this book, Square Foot Gardening, and we thought, boy, it would be nice to try that. It'd really be nice to try that. So we got up here, and so our first square foot gardens looked like this. We built 4 of them. We stuck them out in the main garden. And it's kind of cool is you put a grid on it, and then you plant so many radishes in each grid and so many pepper plants in each grid.
Okay, we did this for a couple of years, but then I got to talk to a church group of senior citizens. But then I wasn't quite as senior as I am now. But they said a lot of those ladies and gentlemen were either in a wheelchair or they had a walker. Okay? They couldn't, and one lady got up, she was really a feisty old lady, and she said, Sarah, it's all right for you to talk about that big garden. You can still crawl around and do things. I still can, but I choose not to. Okay, so I went home and I told Bob what they said, and so what he did was he built me raised pedestal 4x4s. Okay, this makes it doable for somebody that's a paraplegic to garden. Okay, this is wonderful. One of these boxes grows enough produce for a year for one person, according to the book. One of the boxes enough produce for a year for one person. If you've got 6 members of your family, you put 6 of those in, you rotate your planting, you got food. Now, I didn't believe that. And for me, I either have to see it done or talk to somebody that does it and having it working before I'll believe it. So I tried it, and it works. I'm just saying, it works. And what he did was to put the pedestal underneath a regular box thingy he built, and then on the, if you look closely, you'll see cattle panels, so we can not only grow horizontally, we're on a trellis. We had a guy come out, a friend of ours, who was paralyzed from the waist down, and he had the best time picking cucumbers off those trellises. He could reach them. I can sit in a chair and pull weeds like this. My iced tea, and I'm weeding. Now, okay, it's funny, but hey, it works. I'm walking, talking advertisement, and we have folks that come over right now. Every year, he builds me a couple more of these boxes. So right now, I've got 15 boxes. And we don't need that many, but I tend to experiment. Are you ready for experiment? Okay. We have a couple of them that are all standard vegetable stuff. They're tomatoes, they're peppers, they're cabbages, they're broccolis, yada yada, all the stuff you would expect. Then we have a couple of the boxes that are nothing but different kinds of culinary herbs, stuff I cook with. Basil, parsley, oregano, chives, lemongrass, all of that. In another couple of those boxes, I do nothing but herbs. All right. So when I want to come out the back door in my kitchen, walk into the backyard, which is about from here to you, I can clip my salad, go in, and there's my salad for lunch. Again, working smarter, not harder. Now, the main garden is off in the side pasture, so if I had everything out there, I'd have to walk all the way and back. Working smarter, not harder. Okay, what did you show me? Oh, this year, we plant different things every year. This year, we're going to do something really crazy. We're going to plant a whole box full of weeds. I've learned some about foraging for wild things that people call weeds, but they're really not. They're really a wonderful source for food. And I'm in the process of learning how to find them, grow them, and make things out of them. Example, we have nettles in our little pasture. Nettles all over the place. Nettle tea is wonderful. It's an instant energizer. So I pick the nettles, I make nettle tea. Nettle stinging nettle soup is amazing. Chicken broth base, garlic, onion, potatoes. This is really good. It's a marvelous immune builder and a recovery builder if you have been sick or had surgery. Okay? Every year I try new things. Well, this year I decided, and then on our set, we eat big salad every day for lunch. So instead of having to walk here and here and here and all over the place in the field gathering every day, because I like stuff fresh, we're putting a weed thing in. So I'm actually planting some of the things people call weeds. There's plantain. I make tinctures out of that. I learned how to do some of that. There's the nettles. There's all kinds of things.
All right, so this is the purslane that she's going to plant. We're also going to plant some chickweed and some lamb's quarters in our weed box. Now, one thing about the weeds box, the Mel's advice is to make them out of 2x6s, which makes kind of a shallow earth, a shallow growing area. And so you got to water them twice a day, which is a real drag. So we make ours out of 2x12s, which makes that soil almost twice as deep. And so now you can go every other day or even once a day in the really hot weather. And then our friend John Frank, he took what they call Mel's mix, the recommended soil mixture, and analyzed it. And he said, there isn't enough nutrients in this soil, this mix, to make it taste good. And so what we did is we followed his recommendation to add Mel's mix is 1/3 compost, 1/3 perlite or vermiculite, and then 1/3 moss. So we added 1/4 of soil into it, and then we put fertilizers into it. And so now these boxes taste as good as the ones that as the produce that we get in the garden. Okay, let's go to the next one. We'll get to it. Another thing you can do is containers. So, for example, they were swapping out some lights at work, and they had these glass globes. Yeah, a nice big glass globe. I think I paid $2 for 5 of them, and you put a hole in the bottom. You can use that. A lot of things you can. This time of year, they have all kinds of containers like a strawberry tower and a PVC type growing system. You can do things like that. And then one more here. Here's some, just some commercial ones you can get. Nice thing about these is you can put them where you want to, and even if you, live in an apartment, you might have a balcony. You can grow stuff on the balcony. One more. And then our box that has herbs in it, a lot of them are actually in pots so that we can bring them in over the winter. like we have a bay tree in there, we have some rosemaries and that type of thing. All right, next one. Straw bales. Straw bales. Straw bale book. So we tried straw bales for a while. Okay, they're okay. The nice thing about them is they're really fast. You throw down a piece of plastic, you throw your straw bale down on it, and 10 minutes later you're planting. So it's really quick. So if you're you say hey, I want to get something going really fast. There's no digging, no tilling, that kind of thing. So straw bales work really well. They are kind of fussy about watering. You got to make sure that you get the water on them almost every day. And then they don't have a lot of, they don't taste good. So you either have, they're hard to feed with something you sprinkle on the straw bale itself. So you almost have to use a foliar fertilizer that you spray on the plant itself. She doesn't like the taste of it.
No. If I grew tomatoes, I grew zucchini, I grew cucumbers, I did some greens, I grew them. And the same plant grown the same way in my basement that went to the greenhouse is now in the straw bale. And then it's also in my boxes, and it's also in the main garden, and it's also in the straw bales at the same time. So when I did a comparison taste test, the ones in the straw bales I would not recommend. And it was exactly the same thing. So while you save in energy trying to do it and convenience and all of that, I wouldn't recommend doing it. Because and if something doesn't taste good, its nutrient value isn't right. If the taste is off, you're not getting what you're... Okay. There.
All right. Some other things we've tried. So hydroponics, we've done that. So here's a 4-foot by 6-foot hydroponic bed. Below there is a plastic garbage can and a little timer. So 6 times a day it would turn the pump on. It would pump up into that tank and flood that area. And then when the pump turned off, it would drain back down. So this kind of space is very expensive. So you have to have a high value crop to really make this work out, like marijuana. Marijuana, this is perfect. You want to grow a little marijuana in your basement?
No. We've been asked what we grow out here, because some of our plants look strange. Don't say, Sarah, what is that? I tell them we grow all legal substances. We do grow a form of nicotine. It's called jasmine nicotine. We grow it along our potatoes because it's a deterrent for the potato bug. It goes to the jasmine flower, the bugs do, rather than the blossoming potatoes. So it is nicotine. It has the same kind of leaf as other substances, but we don't grow other substances.
So for us, the value of this was actually to take cuttings, and maybe 30 bay leaf cuttings or 30 rosemary cuttings, and get them started so that we can, in a small space, we could get a lot of action going there. So we use this for about 3 or 4 years. So this next year, or this coming summer, what we're going to do is try this system. This is called a crack key system. It's also known as a suspended nets pot system. You use a plastic storage container, and then you plant in a little pot that looks like this with slots in it, and use like a coconut core or a rock wool growing medium. Put your plant in it, and the roots will grow out down into a solution. So the beauty of this is you don't have to water it very much, and then it has a very small footprint. So you could have it in your basement, you could have 2 or 3 of these on a table, and it'd be nice to grow like veggies or like lettuces and chard and that type of thing. So we're kind of excited. That's one that we're going to do this year. One more. All right, so here we're talking about foraging. And we got our good friend down in west of Hutchinson there, Connie Karstens at the Lamb Shop. She writes identification cards that you can use.
These are handy. This one's called Garden Medicine, and it's got pictures of the plant, how to grow the plant, and what it does. And we have done this. We forage. Every day when I do my salads, I'll forage for what grows naturally, and then I'll add the stuff that's in the box. So I have a combination of both. If I didn't have the boxes, if I didn't have the green lettuces and spinach and chard and mustard seed, I could forage and still have a salad, because we've learned how to do that. And that for me is really fun. It's like, okay, seek and find. Connie did these little cards that you can get culinary herb things and how to use them, or medicinal herbs and every kind of vegetable. Highly recommend her stuff. It's good. Okay, this is purslane. I'm actually growing this. Everybody looks at that and says that is a weed. Well, you can call it a weed. I call it nutrition. This is the highest protein of any weed or herb you'll find anywhere in a garden. Very, very, very high protein count, which is what you want. I mean, proteins build our bodies. Purslane. And a lot of you have it coming up all over the place. We do in the main garden. But I decided I want some of those weeds where I can reach them, okay? So we're planting some of the weeds in one of the boxes, and I'm going to have my weed box. A lot of them have medicinal purposes. This one we're adding now to the smoothies. We'll add a tablespoon or something to a smoothie, and it'll bump up this protein count of that smoothie. We also sprinkle this kind of dried herb on our salads. And again, what we've done is bump up the nutritional value of that salad. White lettuce is no food value at all. Don't waste your space. There are other things. Collard greens. I've got plants. So you can see the plants when you want to look at this stuff. I've got mustard greens. I've got every kind of, I've got Swiss chard. I've got spinach. All this is green things. Those are high nutritional things which will build your body up. Okay?
So growing wild, at our place we have dandelions, lamb quarter, stinging nettles, and purslane, chickweed, and common mallow. But even if you don't have a spot to grow a garden, or you live like at the third floor of a building, it's a good idea just to recognize these plants as you are out and about walking, because there might be a day where, you know, lettuce is like $15 for 6 ounces, and this is free, right? This is free. We like the purslane on our salads. It tastes kind of like corn silk, and the chickweed and lamb's quarter is really good. Yeah, and
these have all been dehydrated. They've been dried, and you can dry them a couple ways. You can hang them from the ceiling, like I do the garlic and some other things, or you can put them on a dehydrator and dry them. This is called a green jar, and what I have in here are dried vegetables I grew last summer. I had so many, it's like, okay, what am I going to do with them? I dried kale, lots of kale. Kale is very high, good for you kale. Okay, I dried a lot of kale. I dried spinach. I dried collard greens. I dried mustard greens. Every kind of green you can think of. I put them all in the dehydrator, dried them, and then they're in a jar. Again, this goes to when I want to make soup, when I want to make, I can mix them in with a hamburger. And I've added flavor and I've added nutrition. I can sprinkle it on salads. We can drink it in a smoothie. Another way to get more nutrients into the body. And a lot of times what I was doing before I figured out how to do this, all my extra green things got fed to the chickens or ducks. We have healthy ones. I mean, they're gorgeous. But this way it's going into us, and it's what to do with your extra stuff. You want it in you. Yeah.
So you can see the stinging nettles. So we have some projects that we're working on for this year. Last year we did something called a hugelkultur garden. A hugelkultur garden, and there's a excellent book by a guy named Gabe Brown. He's a commercial farmer, And what I like about this book is he just thinks outside the box. I mean, he just thinks outside the box. And one of the things that he does is he'll bring agricultural college students and technical students onto his place. He'll train them in some skill, some ability. They will get that, they'll get their handle on it, and they will learn to do that kind of stuff. And then he'll turn around and sell them that business and market the stuff that he, in his system, he'll market the stuff that they grow or raise. So he's taking young people, he's giving them internship experience, he's setting them up in business with a market, and they go out and they launch their own type of thing. So one of the things he said to try is this hugelkultur garden. You dig a trench, you fill it full of wood, put small wood on top of it, put compost on top of it, and you cover it with dirt. We got it going last year. The drought kind of put this project on hold. But we're going to really get on it this year and finish it off. One more. Another thing that we did last year is this is a LED lighting system that we have in the basement. So different frequencies or different colors of light are good for germination. Some are good for plant growth. Some are good for the overall growth. And if we do it right, it looks like this. These would be called microgreens. You can get 4 or 5 cuttings out of each tray. A lot of restaurants are doing this as well because of the small space.
Yeah, this is what all the big restaurants are doing. You go buy your salad of microgreens, and you're going to pay $10, $12 for a little bowl of this stuff. That's what we do. Okay, you can grow them, and then we can pick salads from the basement all winter long. Okay, you want a green salad, you go down in the basement and you do with scissors. Come up and put it on a plate. So we don't need to buy greens. This goes all year round. All right, it's good in Minnesota in particular to have, we're good in the main garden 6 to 8 months, but when it's not in the garden, that's when we use, we freeze, but the best thing is preserving the drying things, because you retain your nutrients in dried food that you lose it if you can it. The processing of canning, the heat destroys a lot of the nutrients. I keep going back to that word. What you're going for is nutrient-dense food. So if you destroy a lot of the nutrients, some studies have said over 30% of the nutrients are destroyed by the heating process of canning. So you want to look for other ways of preserving what you grow. And for me, I love the dehydration. These are dried peppers, all different kinds of peppers. When you go out to eat and you get a pizza or spaghetti, they put these little cute things on the table. But these are peppers, because we grow habaneros and jalapenos and cayennes. We grow the hot peppers too, besides the big beautiful green ones. So you can make your own mixes of herbs and stuff to use on your food.
There we go. So here's our mobile compost makers. We have kind of a symbiotic relation with them. We take stuff from the garden and we throw it over the fence, and just like magic, we get compost in return. So black gold, as I think somebody mentioned. But we have a lot of it. In fact, we have a nice big pile. If anybody wants to buy some, you can come and get a truckload of it for about $50, I'd say. But I got even a better deal. If you want to come clean it out of our barn, free. Free. You come clean it out of our barn, it's free. We had people coming in from the cities all the time to pick up our compost. They shovel their own.
And one of the things, and this sounds really strange, but one of the things I've learned to do is to make kind of a sheep poop compost tea. You're not eating it. You're going to use it on your plants. Sheep poop compost tea. And what I do is you fill up one of those 5-gallon buckets. They're very valuable. and you fill it about half full, third full with the sheep poop compost stuff. Then you fill it with water, stir it, and let it sit for a week, 10 days, and then use that for your watering. Okay? Sheep poop compost tea. Yeah, it really does work. We used to have rabbits and do the same thing. And we would have people come over and clean out under the rabbit pen. Because, we'll share the byproducts of our rabbits. But it really works, and it doesn't burn your plants. It doesn't burn your garden out. Some of the other manures that are used to do gardens, they burn the plant. And they'll get an imbalance of stuff. You use the tea, and it works.
All right, some other things that we do is we rotate our crops from about every 3 years or so. So the tomatoes especially are real heavy feeders. They pull a lot of energy out of the soil. So we'll pull all our stakes up. We'll take the plastic up over 6 or 7 rows, and we'll till. We'll put out the compost. We'll till that in. We'll make raised beds again. We'll put our plastic back down, put our carpet in between, put our stakes in, and that just moves around. So that helps. Another thing we can do is if we know we're not going to plant in an area, we'll just put a fresh piece of plastic out, and we'll let that soil rest for a year. Next slide, please. So one of John Frank's programs was what they called a foliar spray feeding program. So once a week we'd mix up all these mixtures and go out and spray all the plants in all the rows. It produced fabulous results, but it was a lot of work for us. And we said, hey, John, make it easier for us. And so then what he did is he said, well, okay, send in a soil sample. And he ran it through the spectrometer, and he found out what areas that we had a lot of minerals in and what areas we're short on. And one of the things he told us is we had too much compost. We had too much compost. We were using compost every year, and you get too much. And when you have too much compost, you have lots of worms, right? Because they got a lot of stuff to eat. But the availability of the minerals that we wanted to get into the plant was kind of low. So he mixed us up a bag of amendments, and we sprinkled that out. And we were just startled how much different a cucumber from this one area, this high-brix area or nutrient-dense area, tasted than our regular organic cucumber. And we used to have a lot of fun. We'd invite people over and we'd say, hey, try this little piece of cucumber, and they'd eat it. And then we'd take them over here. Try this little piece of cucumber, and they'd eat that, and they'd go, wow, this really tastes like a cucumber. And I said, yeah, which one would you like, the organic one or this one? Oh, this one. Every time they would do that. So that's one possibility. The other possibility that you can use is we use something called primal plant food. That's very, very easy. Just has a little scoop in it. You just scoop it into the hole when you plant the plant, or you can spread it around your fruit tree, or you can add it later on, like the tomato plants will go through and add a little scoop of it every once in a while. So if you want to do a soil analysis, I think the website information is up there, fixmysoil.com and growyourownnutrition.com. Okay, next one. So we're on weed control. So a very important thing is don't till in sod. Don't till in sod. You know, you have the temptation if you're starting a garden, you get to talk to your neighbor, hey, why don't you bring your plow over? And they plow you out, 300 feet of sod. They just turn it over, and then you go through there and till it. Now you got all kinds of roots from grasses in that soil, which every one of them is a weed. Every one of them a weed. And in a typical square foot of soil, there's about 10,000 weeds, seeds, all waiting to come out. They're just waiting to come out, about 10,000 of them. So one of our key things is to plant big and plant strong. Remove the plants when you're done using them so they don't go to seed. So we planted dill about 10 years ago. We still get dill every year. We haven't planted it for 10 years. kind of watch your bird seeds. Some of the bird seeds will give you weeds like the black thistles. And then take out the small weeds before they become big weeds. All right, so here's Sarah. She's in the garden with her black landscaping plastic.
I think that means I get to talk.
Yeah, notice she's wearing moccasins in this picture.
I like moccasins.
Well, there's no mud.
There's no mud. There's no mud. I graduated from the gum boots, the rubber things that clunk me, and mud, so I gone. Oh dear. Okay, the mulch, the weed control, we still have plenty of weeds because sometimes they'll grow up around the plants where we put one in the plastic stuff, okay? So you have to deal with that. This is the beauty of the boxes on pedestals, because I can control the kind of soil that goes in there. I can control the amenities that I add. You have very few weeds to start with, but then when you do get a few, they're this big. So I wasn't kidding about a weed like this, which makes it a lot easier.
Okay. Also, the black plastic warms the soil, so that kind of helps get the plants off to a good start. And we use carpet for in between the rows. And then just a tip here is if you do this type of plastic, make sure you put all the dirt back in the hole, because even a little cloud of dirt this big will make a growing spot for a weed. Weeds are just marvelous things. All right, so insect control here. We have three types of insects that really give us the most trouble. So this is the Colorado potato bug. The adult is the stripy one, and the larva is the orange-colored one. And best thing to do on this is plant early and plant strong. Plant early and plant strong. So if you can put out some set-outs, that is really beneficial. Another one that we have trouble with is a caterpillar moths, or not caterpillar, a cabbage moths. And you see the little white moths flying around looking for a place to land. And then occasionally, not so much, but we have trouble with squash bugs. So it seems like every couple of years the squash bugs come out. We do use some spray. We get it from Gardens Live. It's called Bullseye. And then last year that was sold out, so we got something off of Amazon called the Monterey Insect Spray, and that's been very effective. But perhaps the best thing to do is when you see any kind of leaf damage, like on these potato bugs, they eat the edges of the leaf, you see any kind of damage, look around and see what's going on. Let's go ahead and flip that slide over. On the underside, the adults lay these little orangey eggs. So you can just take and pick those off, take the leaf off and destroy that. And that really slows down the potato bugs. Next one, critter controls. So people have deer, eat rabbits, possums, otters, all kinds of things like to come to your garden, right? So a good piece of advice is don't stick out any kind of cat food or dog food close to your garden. If you want to meet some raccoons, is put your dog food out on the back porch, and you'll meet some raccoons. They're just so prevalent in this area. Same way with your chicken food. If you want to meet some rats, leave your chicken food out where the rats can get it. Some of the bird food, we've had rabbits come over and eat the bird food and that type of stuff, even afterwards. Use a fence is a good way to keep the deer and some of the critters out. The yappy dog is our strategy. We have these Great Pyrenees dogs that we've grown for many years. We don't have any deer. We seldom have rabbits, no squirrels, nothing.
We had a rodent problem. When you have a 136-year-old house with holes in the foundation, you do have a thing with mice. Okay, that's one thing. I can deal with a few mice, set a few traps, and I'm done. However, 5 or 6 years ago, we had a rat infestation. They were terrible. They were absolutely horrible. I mean, they were in the house. I would hear them like this. Not good for me at all. Not very, very bad. And so we tried some home things, didn't work. So we finally called what do you call him, an executioner? Thank you. Anyway, that's what his job was to, because we could, and he had Bob. Now I want to talk. My Bibles. Oh. I was doing a Bible study. I'm the teacher, right? So I'm sitting in my chair. I have my Bible. Everybody's got their notebooks out. They're taking notes. We're all looking very spiritual. And across my living room floor, the rat.
All right. Yes. So we actually have snakes in our garden, and every year I bring in the first snake I find. I show it to Sarah, and she always acts like, "Oh, that's I'm scared." All right. But snakes and toads and are frogs, great things. All right, so stuff to take the work out. Start smaller if you're going to plant the garden. Don't plant overly big. Take something, put some energy into it, learn to do some things well, and then as you become efficient in doing those, add on to it. Add on to it. So another project you can do is find some mulch material that works for you. We like black plastic, but you can also use newspapers or cardboard, or some people use compost. We have a friend that takes one of the round bales of straw, and he makes his rows the width of the straw bale, and then he sets the straw bale down and pushes that down the road, or down the row, and then that makes a nice big layer of straw between his rows. He has a huge garden, but it works that works extremely well for him. All right, also grow things up. So here's, for example, the book you might want to look at or look online. Just try to make things go up. We like T-posts and cattle panels that are really sturdy. We use like the bamboo kind of stuff that you get from the fancy garden catalogs, and they'll last for 3 or 4 years and they just fall apart. Or some sort of plasticky, gimmicky thing. It lasts about 3 or 4 years. The sun hits it, just falls apart. So we like sturdy T-posts. We like you can see the cattle panel on the back of the square foot box there. Use containers, use trellises when you can. Just make anything you can, make it go up. And that'll make your life a whole lot easier. Some other things you do is plant some perennials. So, for example, rhubarb, asparagus, and perennial herbs are almost no trouble at all. You just go out there and just kind of straighten them up a little bit at the end of the year, or in the spring, you just straighten them up a little bit, and then off you go. And we have beds of herbs that just come back year after year after year. Works out really well. And raspberry bushes, yes. In fact, I was supposed to talk about that. Good point there. I was supposed to talk about that under weed control. Raspberry bushes, hollyhocks, and our favorite is comfrey. So about 20 years ago, we decided to try some different herbs that we hadn't tried before. So we got some tansy, we got some hyssop, and we got some comfrey. And the comfrey just marches across the yard, across the garden, from one end of our property to the other. It's just amazing how sturdy this is.
I don't want to hear it. I was so excited when we bought the farm. I'd been teaching nutrition classes, and my goal was to be in a place where I could grow what I'm talking about. I never thought it'd be in Minnesota, but I'm here. So we'd be growing. But I was so excited when we got our little place. We are self-sustainable on 3 acres. That's meat, veggies, all the whole bit. So it does work. You can do it in a small area. But anyway, I was so excited because I tried all these different kinds of herbs. I didn't know much about them, but I wanted to plant every herb, so I bought an herb book and I ordered all kinds of herbs. that I did not have a clue what they did, just because I could. I had the land now, and here I go. I got comfrey. Well, I got a couple little comfreys. We have a lot of comfort. I mean, it would easy fill. Yeah, there you go. Well, our comfrey bed's about the size of this room. I mean, they went crazy. And every year, Bob has to remind me and anybody who'll listen about my herbs. But anyway, the tansy's the same way. That's kind of a dangerous herb. You don't want that around. The comfrey, I did find out, though, is a natural-born wormer. If you have livestock and you pick your comfrey and pitch it across your fence for your chickens or your sheep, your horses, your cows, it is a natural wormer. So you don't have to buy worming medication. Use your comfrey. Okay, that's a very interesting thing to know and to do. Okay, there is a use for that, Russell.
So the moral of the story is, if you have something like raspberries or comfrey or something, is try and contain it. Put it in a box or something. You can't kill it. Yeah. Right. So we have helpers, and every year we go out. We send our helpers out with a machete, and they chop down the comfrey fields. They feed them to sheep. Yeah. So another thing we do is we put our plastic down. We leave that plastic down for about 3 years. And then we do something we call micro-tilling. Micro-tilling. So this is our micro-tiller. Basically, I can dig a hole for a potato in about 3 seconds. And then I have my little marker on there so I know how deep to make the hole. But if I want to, say, dig out a square foot area, I will do one corner, second corner, third corner, fourth corner, and in the middle. So I've done all my tilling I need to do in less than about 20 seconds. All the tilling I need to do in about less than 20 seconds. And if I'm planting, say for example, I want that area all loose and I'm going to put a potato in the middle, I drill my middle one, drop the potato in it, cover it up, I'm on to the next potato plant.
It said that we planted between 75 and 100 tomato plants. Okay. My favorite thing is not trying to dig that many holes. That's a lot of holes. Just digging the holes would probably do me in. With this little gizmo, he goes ahead of me, and he goes, and I just go drop my plants in. This really works good. Really, really good. It cuts down on all kinds of labor, and it makes things doable for me that otherwise I couldn't do.
All right. So they used to sell these at Menards. I think this is a 3-inch one. They sell a smaller one. They call them bulb planters. So make sure it has a long handle on it. We've had to add a couple of welds on it to kind of make sure that it doesn't fall apart. That type of thing. All right, some other things to take the work out of the system. So as far as watering goes, you can run out there and turn the water on and off. But for a long time, we used this system with just some cheap garden timers. The little T's and valves that they sell at Menards and other places, they just fall apart after a couple of years. So here's a kind of a chunky little thing that you can build up and make a manifold out of it, and then off you go. Oh, yeah. Next slide. So last year.
Okay, you're just going to have to bear with me, because this is my experience, and there's no arguing with anybody about it, because it's my experience and it happened to me. Okay? So if you want to argue with me on this one, don't. It's too late. Okay. I had, and you could call it a dream or a vision or whatever you choose to call it, but I saw in my dream 4 big tanks, big white tanks, and they were lined up across the back of the garden. This was early last spring. okay, early last spring. Nobody heard about drought in Minnesota. That does not happen. Nobody. But I saw this thing, and I thought, maybe we need to put up some kind of watering thing that could be gravity fed. So Bob rigged this thing up. That's just a bucket and a bunch of hoses. But I kept seeing these tanks. And shortly, I went downstairs and I told him what I'd seen. Well, he jumped all over it. He likes to invent things, if you hadn't figured that by now. Anyway, about 20 minutes after my conversation with Bob, we had a friend that called me up because he knows I kind of scrounge for things and recycle them. And he said, my neighbor is selling food-grade tanks. They're huge. They hold how much water? 275 gallons each one. And I was just going, oh yeah, there are my tanks. And I figured they'd be way more than we wanted to spend. I said, well, how much does he want for them? $35 a piece. And I said, come on. So, okay, where's the next? Show him that one. There they are. Ta-da. All right, he'll explain how all this works. But he's got the whole thing, the big garden is watered. He's got it set up on computer. You don't have to do this. This he likes. But there are the tanks. It's all, he'll tell you how it works. What I want to say, I haven't said yet. I got this thing, and he started building it right away because I knew what it was. And it was shortly thereafter that we started hearing about drought in Minnesota. It was shortly thereafter my neighbors and friends, some of my friends are commercial farmers, they've been in it for generations, they're out of business because they couldn't grow. There's no way we could have had a crop in our big garden unless we had this, because we don't have the energy and the stamina to stand over plants. So
this part of the system is basically the standby storage. Let's put the next slide up. So here's a commercial kind of controller. It runs on batteries. So you put like one little 9-volt battery in it. It'll run for a couple of years. And it has 12 zones. So each one of those little black and white things is a solenoid going out to a zone. And so we'll have one zone dedicated to tomatoes and one dedicated to beans, and we can control the amount of water it gets with 3 different timers every day, or we can not time or not water, that type of thing. It also has a sensor on it. If it's raining, it shuts it off, so we don't do anything like that. So that system is up and working. It kind of saved us last year. And a couple pictures back, 2 pictures back, when I first tested it, I put out the main line going out, and then each little feeder goes out to each individual plant. It takes a long time to put that in. It has a little regulator where the plant is, and it puts out ½ a gallon an hour. But you can run it off of gravity, too. You can run it off of gravity. So here we're just doing a little siphon system. It would drain that 55-gallon tank in about 24 hours. So if you want to do a gravity system, you can. So forward one. So our particular system, it has that reserve of about 1,100 gallons up top, which would run our garden for about 5 days. But most of the time we run off of well water. A project coming up would be to get some sort of collector and try and fill those tanks from rainwater rather than the well water. All right, let's move on. One more. Okay, as far as taking the work out, we hire some people. We've been hiring people for a long time. You know, I like to do things around the farm. I don't like to clean out sheep pens. I don't like to clean out chicken pens. I just don't have time to do it. So we always seem to hire people. And it's good a good thing just to hire some of your kids and your in the neighborhood because you give them experiences and education that they wouldn't normally get. I mean, it's you have some knowledge that you can pass on. So this guy now is probably in his 30s, kids, well established in the community.
Okay, he was one of the first families, and we like to get a family. Right now, we're on the third son of 4 boys. We started with the first son. He outgrew us when he got his driver's license. Now we're on the second. Now, we don't hire these kids full time. We get them half a day a week. Half a day a week. That is our help. Okay? The rest of it we handle, unless we can get volunteers. Anyway, these cabbages were absolutely beautiful. That's one of my seed experiments. Those are Copenhagen cabbages. And I took a bunch of my cabbages to the fair that year, and I won 3 blue ribbons with my cabbages. Yay me. And they turned into wonderful, well, slaw, obviously, and cabbage, but sauerkraut, and we like sauerkraut. So that's part of the produce of, and he had just cut them for me. He does real well with a machete, and he had just cut them, and we cleaned them up there.
All right, so here we have a friend that not even very interested in garlic, but it's just a place to learn to do things or to help out. And so he just come out and helped us harvest the garlic. And you'll find, like we talked about before, if you can grow, 100 tomato plants very efficiently, you can always find somebody to come pick them. If you can grow grapes very efficiently, you know how many people, when's the last time we picked grapes? Probably 20 years ago we picked grapes, but we get about, 8, 9, 10, 5-gallon buckets every year, and we never pick them.
Grape juice. But I'll tell you about the wine story. We don't need to make our own. What happens is, I tell people I know, we have the grapes are not sprayed with anything. We don't prune them. We don't do anything. I go over and pray on them now and again, but we do nothing. We put in just, 6 grape vine plants when they were about that big years ago, and they just keep going and going. And a couple of years ago, we had some friends up north we visited, and I found out the lady was a winemaker. She had every kind of wine you could think of. So she'd tell us about all the different kinds, and I said, would you ever you need the big, beautiful Concord grapes? No, I don't have. I said, well, come down. You can have as many as you want to pick. Right? So they came down, and we put burgers on the grill, and we visited with them. So they disappeared. I don't remember how many buckets of grapes they took. 6 or 7 months later, her husband comes back, and he had us 12 bottles of the best grape wine. You see, somebody else, my neighbors came over, and they came back with, I couldn't believe that, we're still working on it, 12 quarts of grape jelly. You know how long it takes 2 people to eat 12 quarts of grape jelly? So sometimes our stuff comes back, and my deal usually is you pick it, you work the road, you get half of what you pick. We've had people picking apples. One lady was up in one of those, what is that thing called on a tractor? A bucket, cherry, well, she was way up there in this big old apple tree picking apples. And I thought her kids were going to do it. No, she's up in the tree. But anyway, then they took home half of them. And again, those apples are not polluted with any form of stuff. Okay? So they got all these. There's my cabbage. That was my, ta-da, award-winning cabbage.
All right, so that pretty much concludes our presentation. Another thing that Sarah kind of mentioned that you should probably mention a little bit more is we do talk to the plants. She pets them. She pets them, and she prays over them.
I want to show you on my tomato plants, because not very many, I read this years ago and I've been trying it. I have trays of tomato plants in the basement. Trays of them, okay? And I have learned to simulate wind over them. Okay? They're grown inside, they're not outdoors. If they were outdoors, they would be subject to wind, to be moving. Now the problem is, in the house, a lot of times they don't form the good root ball they do if they were outdoors. You want a really significant root ball on all your plants. Okay, the way to solve that is when they're inside, you get them out of a nursery, they've been grown inside. They haven't had any movement. The movement of heading the tomatoes causes the roots to go deeper. So when I plant these in the main garden, I'm going to have a root ball like this. And then when we plant them deep, right up to the leaves. Okay? So if you want strong tomatoes with an incredible harvest, go down there and pet your tomatoes. Or if you buy them from a nursery. Because where they're not grown outdoors. They don't get the resistance, and you want the resistance on your plants to make the big root balls. Very, very, very important. The other thing was when you buy plants, I'll pull this up, and I bought some, Walmart nurseries and what have you, and looking at the roots are growing in circles. Has anybody ever had that? You buy a plant and the roots are going to circle. Well, I had read don't disturb roots. That's not right. If you get that circle thing, what's happening, and if you not, unless you straighten them out, those plants will be dead in 3 weeks. They're strangling themselves. You have to straighten out those roots before you plant it. Straighten them out. Don't let them circle. And then I use scissors and trim off the roots like getting a haircut. Every time you get a haircut, it stimulates your hair to grow. When you trim the ends of your roots, it'll stimulate your plant to grow more. So whether you're buying them or growing them, trim them and pet them. I talk to them too. I talk to them. We had a situation years ago. We were invited to go to the boys' ranch in Cokato to talk about gardening, and their objective was they wanted their kids to raise a garden to help feed themselves, and for activities. So we went, and I thought, I had a bunch of teenage boys, tattoos, piercings, the whole bit, and they're not going to listen to me, so I decided to make them listen. So we had baby lambs at that time, so I walked in with a baby lamb under my arm, and then on the leash was one of our Pyrenees, 150 pounds of dog. I got their attention right away. So we told the dog, sit. She didn't move. And the lamb, we took baby bottles, let them feed the bottles. Okay, now I had their attention. They're going to listen to what I say. So I could talk about fertilizer and about how to fertilize their gardens. I could talk about how to protect their garden from predators. You build a fence or you get a big dog. Okay. If they get their attention before they'll listen to you, particularly when you're their grandma age. So, on. Anyway, they planted their garden. Okay, and one thing I did tell them was, I do all the stuff, and we went through some of this, and I said, one thing I do is I pray over my plants. I ask the Lord to bless it. And I know the Lord of the harvest, and He does. He blesses my plants. And He blesses my harvest. And so I told him that, just the same way I just told you. The Lord blesses my plant. And so I said, if you want to do what we're doing, go for it. So the lady that had invited us to come talk, she called a couple of months later, and she said, "Yeah, Sarah, they got the garden in, they got it fenced, they've got plants, they're picking stuff." And she said, "We have 2 students that get up every morning really early, and they go out there and pray over their plants." Huh. Yeah. So I said all that to say that's what we do. If you have questions or comments, are we ready to do that? Or do you want to, how are we doing on time? Yeah, Yeah. Oh, look at this pumpkin on this slide. That's my favorite pumpkin. We call it the great pumpkin. And I've been saving seeds for that for years and years and years. Look at the size of that baby. And that one was grown for decoration, and then it was cut up and it was fed to the sheep and chickens. Okay, so stuff like that's just fun to mess with. That's a great picture of